Fruitful Commons is a local Austin nonprofit. We've been working with American Forests this year on their tree equity program to develop a tree equity score analyzer, or TESA tool, customized for Austin. This tool will help community groups, organizations, and city departments to plant more trees in areas that need them most and be able to measure their impacts. So this is a really exciting tool. Fruitful Commons has been collecting supplemental data sets specific to the Austin area that will be added to the TESA tool once it's finalized as filters that are relevant to identifying areas with the greatest need for investment. So from today's session, we hope that you all will leave with a basic understanding of the functionality and potential use cases for this TESA tool. You'll gain familiarity with the data that you can access through TESA, and you'll understand how to build your own scenarios and generate impact reports within the TESA tool. And with that, I'll hand it over to Refugio with American Forests.
Thank you, Angie. So I'll be talking a little bit about the Tree Equity Score application, which can be accessed by going to treeequityscore.org. You can go to the next slide, Jody. So the Tree Equity Score, for those that are unfamiliar, is really a program that we developed, or an application really that we developed a few years ago to highlight sort of inequitable access to nature, and more specifically trees, in urban areas. And these are urban areas as determined by the U.S. Census. We give each census block group a score of 0 to 100, with 0 being areas of greater priority for tree planting. We look at tree canopy cover in comparison, and compare that to socioeconomic factors like race and income, age groups, and things like that. And so again, these are for every single, the application covers every single urbanized area census block group in the country, which is over 200,000 of those, and includes over 12,000 cities and towns, and soon we'll have also included Puerto Rico and U.S. Virgin Islands in our next update, which hopefully will happen within the next few months. You can go to the next slide. So what is it used for? We can use the Tree Equity Score. It's really meant as a sort of decision support tool for urban forestry. So urban forest professionals, community organizers, local organizations, or local governments can use this to really look at where trees are needed the most, and based on the needs of the people, right, on the areas where or more vulnerable populations are compared to the tree canopy. You can go to the next slide. And so the score, again, as I mentioned earlier, is calculated at the block group level, which we refer to as neighborhood. The neighborhood isn't the technical term, right? But so we refer to it just to make it a little bit more easier sort of to understand, more relatable. And this is, again, U.S. Census block group, determined by U.S. Census, which comes out every 10 years. So every 10 years, we just had our recent one. The data was released for this past one for 2020, not too long ago. And so our update this summer changed some of the boundaries for those block groups. And those block groups can contain anywhere from 600 to 3,000 people. And again, it's all urbanized areas for the whole U.S. And with Puerto Rico and U.S. Virgin Islands included soon. And I think I hand it off to Alexis here.
Yes, that's right. If I can get off of mute. So here we're going to show just a few minutes of a video. This video was created in the last few months to document some of the work that's happened with Tree Equity Score in Rhode Island. Rhode Island was the first place that a Tree Equity Score analyzer was built. And so it's really the kind of the proving ground for it, and it's had a few more years to develop. And so hopefully this video gives you a little bit of sense of what this looks like on the ground, and as well as kind of the community connection along with the city level planning that's happening in coordination with this tool.
Tree Equity Score is a free tool for urban areas nationwide so that anyone could get in and get trees to people that need them the most. It's a single measure nationwide that ranges from 0 to 100. It's a combined measure of tree canopy need and social health and climate priority. The lower the score, the greater the need for investment.
So when they gave us the opportunity to use this tree equity score, I needed to understand what tree equity was and also talk to people about it. And it is just unequal distribution of green resources. Some people are experiencing the extreme heat in the summer a lot more. And tree equity really prioritizes bringing those trees and those resources to the areas that need it most.
I think that what's so striking when you look at this scale is just how ubiquitous these kinds of patterns are. You can look anywhere in America and you will see low-income communities, communities of color, have a lack of access to these kinds of natural resources that really improve our quality of life. What's really unique about Tree Equity Score is that it provides an equity-first, data-driven approach to filling gaps in our urban tree canopy.
In the past, it's been a first come, first serve type of program, both at the state and in many of the communities. You can look across the community and see where those scores are, but it doesn't tell you where you should plant the tree directly in the ground. And Leandro was one of the folks who spend time in the community and discover areas where they needed to put the trees.
We had a whole long list of people who applied for a free tree, whole bunch of addresses. We put the address in the tree equity score and saw if it was below 70 and they were getting a tree, or if it was above 70 and then that person wouldn't get a tree. Using the tree equity score was a game changer because we finally had the language like, hey, look at this score here. We need to work as a community to lower the temperatures in this neighborhood, and this tool shows it. So we ended up planting over 150 trees in residential, schools, and also we ended up working with the city of Pawtucket and the Department of Public Works and planting some trees downtown.
Yeah, so that's just to give you a little bit of sense of one example where this has already been in use for a little bit. But so we've been talking about Tree Equity Score and really the National Explorer tool most of all. And so that's like what Refugio mentioned, that's available for all urbanized areas across the US. And it gets you down to the neighborhood level or that block group level. But we're going to start shifting here to talk about TESA, or the Tree Equity Score Analyzer, a little bit more specifically, which is it's an even deeper dive. And so through that, we can start looking at parcel level or property level data. And it's a much finer grain scale. And really importantly, it also offers scenario building. And so there's a scenario builder within the TESA tool, which lets you create your hypothetical planting scenario. So say that there's a block at the end of your street that you know has the opportunity for trees. The scenario builder will let you create that that project per se, and it will give you the impact benefits of that planting. And so Refugio will go deeper into that, but that's a key part of the TESA tool specifically that is not available in the National Explorer tool. And then also really importantly, the TESA is built with stakeholders, and so it's a co-created tool. We've taken input from local folks to understand what are the supplemental data that are most important to be included into this tool. And so that's on top of the data that it's already included as part of Tree Equity Score. What local information is really relevant to folks to use alongside Tree Equity Score. And so that's different from every city. The data available is different from every city. And so these are really some of the important key aspects of how TESA is different than what's available across the country, and why we really want to make sure that folks know how to use it and what the potential is. Yeah, and so on that note, to start giving you a little bit of sense of what can be done with TESA, there's really a large range of application for it, from a community organization standpoint to a city level or even regional level planning. So if I, for example, just had questions about my neighborhood, and I want to know a little bit more about the demographics, and what tree canopy really looks like in my neighborhood, I could explore that and find data points that help me understand a little bit more from an aerial point of view and from a data perspective. What does my neighborhood look like? I could start comparing that to the surrounding neighborhoods and think a little bit more of what is different about my neighborhood and what maybe also is the same. If I worked for a nonprofit organization, for example, there's a lot of application for this tool to support grant applications, for example, or to make the case for why certain projects need to happen. And so I could create scenarios, for example, of maybe a targeted neighborhood that I'm working in, and use those reports with the data around tree planting benefits and whatnot to elevate those needs. And then, for example, at the municipal level, this can really help target where funds should be spent, where the most vulnerable populations are, and where geographically those resources should be targeted, as well as maybe even educational opportunities to show what tree canopy and tree equity looks like across the city. I'm going to hand it off to Cecilia to actually walk through a Austin-based example, which helps maybe help illustrate this a little bit better.
Yeah, hi, I'm Cecilia Hogan with Fruitful Commons, and I'm very excited to talk about a project that I love and won't stop talking about. This is the park that's actually in my neighborhood, and the group that manages it is under the fiscal sponsorship of Fruitful Commons, Friends of Grand Meadow Park. So this park is a 9.9 acre neighborhood park that is currently just a wildflower meadow, a beautiful wildflower meadow, but residents have wanted to do more with the park for a long time. We just finished the concept plan process with Austin Parks Foundation. Thank you so much, APF. And this is the beautiful design that is now headed to the city to get approval for moving forward. And so you can see we're leaving a lot of the wildflower meadow. We're going to be adding in like a shade trail and a food forest and community garden. The trees on two of the edges were already there. And so I'm going to go over quickly one way that we probably are going to use this TESA tool for advocating for this project. I'm going to switch over to the TESA. So Grand Meadow is a park in Southeast Austin. My computer's moving slowly. When it lets me zoom out, I'll show you we're in Southeast Austin. And one of the biggest environmental concerns of residents down here is, of course, flooding, due possibly from like a lot of development. Yeah, here we go. So I'm in this orangey block here, and you can see the equity score based on the demographics and the tree canopy cover. And you can see that we're also in, I think it's somewhat, you can tell me later, Alexis, if it's statistically significant, but kind of a higher heat disparity range. So, rising heat is also going to be an issue in these like developed areas. So I'm going to zoom into the park here and just create a quick scenario. All right, so the park here has two parcels, and I'm going to add both of them to the scenario. So I'm going to click on one, or I'm going to click first on create scenario and do Grand Meadow Park. And I'm just kind of guessing it's going to be about 150 trees planted just for simplicity's sake. And I'm going to split it between the two parcels. Oops, not 200. So we're going to, again, for simplicity's sake, just split it between large, medium, and small trees. The food forest certainly will have more small, medium kind of fruit and nut trees. Well, nut trees are big, but some smaller fruit trees and other trees. And you can see adding these in, you can already see the change in plant canopy for this, this parcel. And Alexis can go into the more detailed stuff. So I will add this to scenario. And then I'm going to add the other parcel to the scenario with the other amount of trees. There we go. And then we can see the impact report. And so what's exciting is you can see the numbers of from the existing site canopy. You can see that currently there's probably about 7,000 gallons of storm runoff prevented. And then we get to see the change here. Probably about 20,000 extra gallons every year are going to be prevented from stormwater runoff. And so that's something that we can include in our grant applications for building the park. We can also include it in celebrating, what we've done at the park and advocating for more trees elsewhere. We can show residents, wow, like right here at our park, we're able to have these kinds of changes, as well as, more carbon sequestered and, pollution removed. Yeah, well, I can talk about this park all day. I will switch it back over to the American Forest crew.
All right. So once we're logged in, this is what we'll see, right? This is sort of you'll notice it's very similar to if you've been on the National Explorer main application. It'll be very similar, but in this case, it's just you only see the study area here, which is the Austin urban area, and this Austin urban area is determined by the U.S. Census. So you see Austin goes all the way from Georgetown in the north down to just the northern part of San Marcos, down in the south. And once you hover over, you can see the composite tree equity score for that municipality. So Austin is a 93, Kyle is 81, and then Round Rock 85, and so on, right? When we zoom in a little bit more, you'll notice it still looks. This is basically the view that you get when you look at the National Explorer as well. So we'll see it's very similar. Clicking on a block group will come up with the same information that is on there, and Cecilia went over this as well. But if you wanted to, and then same with the National Explorer as well, you can sort of filter these out for looking at different layers. So right now it's showing the tree equity score. The colors are showing the tree equity score, but you can change that to tree canopy cover, unemployment, heat disparity, and so on. All these different sort of layers, including redlining, which are only available for certain cities. Unfortunately, we don't have redline information for every single city, but Austin does happen to have that, but really only more for the urban core, the city core. And you can also change the base map to satellite. We go back to the defaults. And also other things, you can change the filters. So these are all the priority indicators that you see here. We can change so that you can view, maybe if you only wanted to see the block groups that had lower scores. So anything below an 80 here is shown, everything else is filtered out. And again, for all these other ones, again, with unemployment. So if you wanted to view anything with unemployment, or that it should filter out as well for those. Again, with redlining as well. So, and you'll see once I'm going to zoom in now here, and you'll see that parcel view that we saw when Cecilia shared. These filters do change because now these are just in relation to the parcels. Right now it's only showing these 4. These are the default ones that are included in every TESA application. But we will be adding some supplemental layers here that will be determined by the community on what is important based on what's important to them, what you all want to see. So if you have any suggestions or any input on that, I think we definitely would appreciate some feedback on there as well. But for now, we just have these 4 here, and again, same as the other ones, where you can just filter out the different parcels that way. And to create a scenario, you can click on either scenario reports up here or create a scenario. You can give it a name. I think I already have 1 and 2, so I'll go with 3. And to add, you just can click on that parcel, and then that side will pop up. One important thing to note is that if you put too many trees, say I put 1,000 large trees, it'll tell you that there's way too many. There's no way that that parcel can handle that many trees. So that's another useful thing to have there. And the large are calculated. The trees are calculated by canopy, by the estimated canopy square feet. So larger 100 square feet or 1,000 square feet. Sorry, canopy cover. A medium is 600 and small is 300. So these are just sort of estimates. You can also adjust the target for the block group. Now this isn't the parcel, but the block group itself. Clicking here, the default is just 5 above what the tree equity score is. So in this case, the default target is 90, since the tree equity score for this block group is 85. We can change that here. And then if I by clicking the impact report, you'll see the sort of the impact report again. That's the seal I showed. The middle tab here shows the plantings for what we added to the scenario here, and then the third tab is the existing, whatever is currently there in that parcel, or in the scenario parcels that we chose. And then if you want more information on methodology or data sources and all that, the menu button here will have a link. This one here, methods and data, is especially important. It does link all of our methodology for how we calculated everything, and you can also download the data at the block group level for the National Explorer data for the state. And again, and this question mark down here as well can help out if you get stuck with navigating the map or going through the different filters and layers and all that. You can click on here to help you out a little bit. And there's also a data glossary. And I believe that's all for my part. Again, if there's any questions, feel free to ask, or we'll try to answer those best we can.
Yeah, we have a few minutes here for questions. If feel free to contribute in the chat. If not, well, we can address a few of the ones that have already come through.
I'm going to read off a few of the questions that have come through the chat already. Lee Newsom asked, does the tool measure light hours in determining the overall canopy score? For instance, would a mesquite tree and oak tree score the same, even though their canopies have different effects on the space?
It's by the size of the canopy. So if they happen to have the same canopy cover, they're both, say, 300 square feet, then yeah, they would score the same.
Susan asked, how does it help with planting trees in neighborhoods who are suspicious of the city and their objectives?
I can try and address this. Part of what we'd like to emphasize about the tool is that it's built out of publicly available information, and so really it has a lot of potential for many different perspectives and many different goals. I think the tool has a lot of potential to initiate conversations around tree canopy and understanding why tree canopy might look like that in a neighborhood. And I think those kinds of conversations can help address those city suspicions. I'm based in Detroit, actually, and so I think this is something that's pretty prevalent and is happening right now. But so I think those are some of the applications of how to use it. The tool itself isn't, I think, gonna change hearts and minds in that way, but I think the conversations that can be paired with its use and the educational opportunities are where that kind of challenge can be addressed.
Jonathan asked, how is the heat disparity calculated? Does that include the impervious cover and other non-vegetation coverings?
The heat disparity is surface temperature during the summer. I think it's at 3 p.m. or something. But it's based surface temperature data at a very specific time of the day. And then that's compared to the urban area. So areas that are, so say we take the average, and then if a certain block group tends to be, say, 2 degrees higher, then that's how it shows up on there. So plus 2 degrees, or if it's cooler than average, then it's minus 2 degrees, whatever it is. But it's surface temperature.
And Refugio, where does the parcel and right-of-way data source from?
Yeah, I forget the exact source. But they provide all of the parcel data, everything that we have here. I'll look for it really quick. I forget the name, but I'll write it in the chat once I find it. Sorry.
It might not be regrid.
Yeah, regrid. There it is.
Yeah.
Regrid. Yep. Thanks, Alexis.
Let's do one more question here, and then we will have another Q&A section in a little bit. Ingrid from Watershed Protection asked, how does the equity component of the scoring compensate for commercial parcels where there are no residents?
So this is a really good question and really relevant here for us this year, because previously we had part of our calculation for tree equity took into account population density. And then this question sort of came up, right? Like, how do we compensate for areas that there's a lot of built up areas, but there's no people living, right? So, so we swapped population density now for building density. So now we use building footprint as part of the calculation for tree equity scores. Not, I think, and you know, that's not perfect, but I think it's getting a little bit more to where we need it to be to sort of help with situations like these.
So we'll still have some more time for questions, and we'll keep compiling here, whatever comes through the chat. But I do want to move us into this scenario building exercise and give you a little bit of opportunity to get your hands on the tool. Hi, y'all. I know the application may have had some bugs or been a little bit slow, but hopefully you're able to get through and get a sense of the tool and get your hands on it. Hopefully you were able to look into some of the scenarios and actually see some of the functionality. Based on that, anybody want to share what the scenario is that they went into, and maybe a couple points about if there's anything surprising or informative you found about it?
I guess I could go. I drove for the group. Yeah, we managed to barely get to the end of the first scenario, the improving the heat disparity one, and honing in on the parcels that we wanted to focus on was pretty easy using the filter. There was just like the bugs of creating the scenario and selecting the 2 parcels. But then everything after that was fine. Not a very interesting share, but I figure no one else was talking, so I'll just say something.
No, we appreciate it.
Yeah, I could go next. We went through all 3 of the scenarios. We did also have some issues with the like the beta platform of this, just kind of like freezing up. But despite that, one of the things that at least I discovered, or like one of the things that I was thinking about, and it was really kind of based off of someone had said in the chat, they asked a question about like, how does commercial land use or properties fit into this equation? Like, how do you calculate it with the census data and population statistics and all of that? And one of the we did a filter for that first one. It was a heat. It was like filtering for high heat areas. And then we found a block group that fit that criteria. We zoomed in to try and look at some of the parcels and turned on the satellite view. And this was a place northeast at Grand Avenue Parkway and I-35. And as one could imagine, like properties adjacent to I-35 are highly commercial properties and a lot of impervious cover. Almost the entire census block group was or is commercial land use. If you're one of those nonprofits that provides trees to private to residences, this could be a challenge of like trying to find your customers. At least it kind of tells you where they're not located in that particular priority area. But it was just something worth noting. Like it would be helpful. I mean, with the satellite aerial imagery, it's really helpful to be able to just see what is in the neighborhood. But an indication as to like what types of land uses are there is also really helpful. Is it primarily a residential neighborhood versus commercial, things like that?
So that land use layer is definitely something that can be added, and it has been added for other cities, TESAs. But it's something we could add as a supplementary layer for sure. I'm doing it now actually for Detroit.
I can go for our group. So we actually used a real example of a tree planting that Tree Folks did just this past fall at McBee Elementary. So I just kind of plugged in some numbers from our planting there. And it was very cool to kind of see the projections of the estimated ecosystem services, just because it's definitely something that we talk about at all of our plantings, and it's something that's pretty well communicated. But until before, there wasn't really a good way to communicate, to quantify that to our volunteers. And so I think stuff like this, obviously it's going to be great for grant writing, but also I think just for compiling some quantifiable data for like public facing reports to kind of let people know, like, here's the numbers on how many, how much carbon we're sequestering from all the plantings we did, how much stormwater runoff is prevented. And so I think that's really cool. We did have one question though about the annual ecosystem service value. We weren't sure if the number
Max.
that
Hey Max, can I interrupt for just a second? Would you be willing to share your screen to show this? That would be awesome. Our group crashed enough to where we didn't get through all of the scenarios, so it'd be awesome to see and hear your thoughts here.
Okay, can y'all see it?
Yeah, thank you.
Yes, so here's the 50. This is actually it was actually 60 trees. I mistyped, but anyway, we were just kind of looking at the report that it gives out. There were some questions about how some of these are calculated, which I saw that you posted the breakdown on how things are calculated. But yeah, we just kind of had a question about if this number, if the value added from planting the trees is a difference between this number and what's provided with the existing site canopy, or if this is actually what's added from the numbers that you plug in.
Sure, the existing site canopy is like just what is there like right now at the parcel, and then the middle tab that's on right now is whatever it is that you're adding. So in that scenario, those 50 trees that are being added to that scenario, or to those parcels or parcel.
Okay.
But would you have to subtract this parcel annual ecosystem service value from, or sorry, subtract the existing site canopy from this parcel's number to get the value added? Or is this the total value added on top of the existing site canopy?
So that is what we're seeing now is the value added. So not the total, but just the value added by those 50 trees, not necessarily everything put together.
Awesome. Thank you for clarifying.
While Max is sharing, Heather, what question did you have?
Yeah, it was a little similar, basically, trying to understand how to see the total change and maybe even like a list of which data points it can show that change for. Yeah, I also was wondering about whether you need to toggle back and forth or if what's on this page is sort of the end result.
So, so if you had the existing site canopy clicked on, you could have that as a baseline and then go over to that parcels and add the two of those together if you wanted a total. Am I understanding that right, or if you feel?
Yeah. And
Yeah.
sorry, I missed initially. I was trying to find for the question that was in the chat, but yeah, essentially, that's right, Jody.
Yeah. And then those little question marks will help, with kind of what are those data points exactly. Anyone? Yeah, go ahead.
I was just saying, and if it wasn't clear, these data points here are meant to offer some different ways of describing those benefits. And so, if you're talking to an audience who so many tons of carbon sequestered doesn't mean much, it gives you a number for how many cars offset from the highway or from the road.
I don't mean to be picky. I just really believe in this tool. So I'm just saying what's on my mind. And I just don't understand the need to, in the title of this tab, to be parcels and rights of way, when the parcel inevitably includes, right of way. I feel like it's confusing to the user to all of a sudden see
the
that.
Parcel does not include the right of way. Right of ways are like sort of separate sort of parcels.
Oh, okay.
They're separate. I think in this beta, they're not in here yet, but they will be in the final.
Got so two separate sets of results.
Yeah. Well, yeah, the right of way are treated basically as like their own sort of parcels.
Got it. Okay.
Yeah.
And that too addresses, for example, if you were a city that only plants street trees, for example, because that happens, for example, here in Detroit, you might want only the right of way.
Right. Makes total sense. Thanks.
Thanks so much for sharing your screen, Max. Are there other scenarios that folks want to share or their experience with it? If not, we can also keep using this time for additional questions, either about the data or use of the tool.
I guess I just had to realize which way the numbers were going. We spent a little bit of time, mostly because of my confusion, but with Joshua in our breakout session, just understanding what the number was. I thought that number reflected that things were better than what they really are. So I guess it was just more of just kind of becoming familiar with how the information is being presented.
Mm-hmm.
And that's just a user experience, of course. Just the more often you're doing that, you understand the tool better.
Mm.
And confirm if it's what I'm interpreting. So tree equity score, the lower the score, the higher priority it is, versus you might think the opposite.
Yeah, yes, I think initially I saw, there was the example at the beginning and it was like 84 and I was like, well, that seems really good. But then I realized that was actually saying that there was 84% improvement for that space. And I wasn't making that connection initially, so.
Understood. Thank you.
Hi, this is Kaylee Zazula from Travis Audubon. On my group, when we were having trouble with Austin, we switched over to Richmond. And it was interesting to see how the parcels had such lower scores than what the average parcel looked like in Austin. Is that because the parcels are smaller, or does Richmond just really have a much sparser tree canopy than Austin?
So part of that, I'd be careful in comparing sort of different areas of the country. The scores are normalized to the urban area, so they're
Okay.
so they're in comparison to like Austin urban area. So that study that we see. But Austin is actually pretty well treated. There is actually pretty good canopy cover in general throughout Austin. I'm not super familiar with Richmond, but yeah, I wouldn't compare necessarily with different parts of the country, because it's just a totally different area.
Got it. Thanks.
Marcos, would you like to speak your question? Maybe these guys could answer that.
Sure. Thanks, Jody. Yeah, I read it and I was like, wow, I don't think I captured that correctly. Which would be neat to know. I think there's a focus on planting versus caring for. So if we have a new development of single family homes and there's, per code of tree planted on every front yard, the equity score might not pick up, right? That there's a small tree there, a sapling. So there's a low score, but might there be a future scenario plan where it calculates caring for that existing tree or tree that we plan to plant there, not necessarily number of trees to be added in that area as far as calculation of scoring. Now that's assuming that it's not factored in the methodology or formula that y'all are using. And then there's tree species as well. There's canopy volume versus just a two-dimensional, aerial view of the canopy spread versus the potential with larger trees, that volume size. And then there's that proper care for maximizing that volume and reaching maturity. But that's kind of hard to kind of bundle into calculations. I'm sure efforts have been made and there might be some challenges to that. But anyways, just wanted to share that.
Yeah, I think in ideal world, we'd be able to distinguish between species and all that, because those things are important as well. But I think we sort of settled on just sort of estimating by the size, right? So a large tree would be 1,000 square feet, canopy cover, and medium 600, small 300, and all that. But maybe one day, maybe we'll be able to get to the species level. And I think depending on the height of the sapling, because I know when we get our canopy data from Google, I'm assuming they use a sort of they look at the height as well. So I don't know what the cutoff is for them, but it might actually be included in there.
Other than that, really cool tool. It was pretty cool to drive and how user-friendly it is.
Thanks so much. I know we've got a little bit shorter than 10 minutes left. I was gonna see if there's any last thoughts on takeaways you want to say about the tool. Are there thoughts on ways that you think that this could be even elevated to be more helpful? The bugs obviously will be fixed, but if there's other data you see that really connects, or data that you use on a regular basis that you think complements this, any of that would be really helpful.
Yes, particularly the data question. Fruitful Commons has been working hard to help American Forests get data sets from y'all and from everybody we know. So we're still in process of that, and kind of knowing what's really important to everybody would be really helpful. Maybe there's a question we could throw in the chat about, what metrics, what data sets are the most important to you? I can flash on the screen here, these are some of the ones that we're pulling from to give to them. So you'll see, City of Austin, got Offices of Resilience, Parks and Rec, Campo, Watershed, a couple of open portal data sets, and then some from A&M and Travis County, United Way, USDA.
I do have one question about some data, and it's less about like more data inputs that go into TESA, and it's more about like the feedback loop of this whole process. So, this is a scenario planning tool. It's really good for figuring out where to plant trees, but once the trees go into the ground, or if you're one of the groups that delivers trees to people, and you have a really good tracking system for that, so you know where the trees were planted, or who received trees. I know this isn't a tree inventory type of application, but is there a way to like feed real trees planted and like understand your impact in that way? I mean, I wouldn't be much different from building the scenario, except you're using real world data. Has there been any thoughts about that?
I think there's some very early conversations of what that could look like, but and it's come up before about if that data is available, if the collection is available, how could it be input into this? But TESA's definitely not there at this moment. I don't know if you know more, Refugio.
Yeah, there's not much more than that. Yeah, and it has come up, a few times, and it'd be awesome to have, but yeah, just not there just yet.
It definitely gets into questions of I mean, there's the actual work of putting it in, but then if that starts going into the tool, what is the regularity on which it can be updated? And where is that data coming from on a regular basis? I think also becomes a question.
Okay, thanks.
We're going to keep exploring that same question, Alan, here locally. There's several efforts of people even on this call of wanting to maintain trees and even have citizen scientists involved. So I know we're actively hoping for that too, and we will definitely keep the relationship going with American Forest to see, maybe if that's in the future that we could all work on together. Very important information, especially as our climate changes, what trees are surviving, when was it planted and what conditions, and, start to record some nitty-gritty data would be super helpful.
I think it's a great tool. I'm really excited about it. Thanks for all y'all's hard work and gathering us and talking about it. I appreciate the metrics that are used currently in the report, like gallons of stormwater runoff prevented and carbon sequestered. Definitely the stormwater runoff we use at watershed protection. I just wanted to add, we're working on our strategic plan. The city's watershed protection is working on the next strategic plan called Rain to River. And part of that is going to be updates to the metrics we use to assess our performance in projects. So in that, there's specific metrics of like, linear feet of creek that was restored or things like that. So I don't know if you guys are looking to partner with Rain to River, it might be a good opportunity to bring in your stormwater component. And maybe look at the strategic plan for getting additional metrics to present at the end in the report.
Great, thanks.
Yeah, and just want to thank you all so much for your time today, and for all of your individual work in this space. We will share updates as the tool is finalized and ready to use. And yeah, feel free to fill out that survey and give us any additional feedback. We really appreciate all of you, and have a great evening.
Awesome. Thank you.
Everyone.
Thank you.